For the majority of the people living in the continental U.S., March 18, 1925 would be a normal day. However, for those living in southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, and southwestern Indiana, March 18, 1925 would prove to be the worst day of their life. At about 12:40 p.m. Central Standard Time, a small condensation funnel was noted in the rugged forested hills of Moore Township in Shannon County, Missouri. Just 5 minutes later, the main horror was about to begin as the funnel lifted back up into the sky and touched down once again in Reynolds County, west-northwest of the small town of Ellington. It wouldn't take long for the first fatality to occur at just 1:01 p.m. when the farmer was caught off guard north-northwest of Ellington. The tornado sped to the northeast as a fully grown condensation funnel. It moved into Iron County, where it hit the small town of Annapolis. Nearby was the small former mining village of Leadana. Within a matter of minutes, 2 people were killed and an estimated 90% of Annapolis was destroyed. The tornado moved into the sparsely populated areas of Madison County to the south of Fredericktown, where it passed near Cherokee Pass. At this point, the tornado was steadily growing larger and larger as time went on. It then moved into Bollinger County, where 32 people were injured, all of which were children, when 2 schools were damaged. Multiple homes and farms were completely destroyed near the small community of Licksville, where a farmer and 3 children were unfortunately killed. Deep ground scouring, a phenomenon which is only noted in the strongest tornadoes, was observed near the small village of Cedricsville as well. It was reported that the tornado carried sheets of iron as far as 50 miles or 80 kilometers away. Moving into Perry County, the tornado reportedly developed a double funnel. It was at this moment where the tornado struck the small town of Biehle, destroying many homes in and around the town and killing a farmer. At nearby Brazow, another farmer was gravely injured and died 4 days later. Numerous other homes and farmsteads were completely leveled near Frohna as well, where 1 woman was killed and another died from her injuries just 10 days later. Altogether, in the state of Missouri, at least 12 people, possibly more, died and another 200 or so were injured. It then moved across the Mississippi River into southern Illinois, debarking trees and deeply scouring the ground in rural areas before devastating the small village of Gorham at 12:30 p.m. 60 of the 80 homes, all the storefronts, the train depot, and 2 out of the 3 levels of the school in the town were all destroyed, with the remaining 20 homes being damaged to some degree. Railroad tracks at this location were also reported to have been ripped from the ground. More than half the town's population was killed or injured. 30 were killed immediately, and 170 others were injured, 6 of whom died later. Continuing to the northeast at an average speed of 62 miles per hour and upwards, the tornado cut a almost mile-wide swath through the city of Murphysboro, a thriving coal shipping center and railroad town of just 10,000 people at the time. The tornado leveled all but the extreme southern side of the town, where many of the densely populated working-class neighborhoods saw some of the storm's most horrific effects. Entire rows of homes were leveled and swept away at F5 intensity in some locations. Many other structures were also severely damaged or destroyed, including the M&O railroad shop, where 35 people were killed, mostly in fires after the tornado. Schools in the area were heavily devastated as well, with 17 people killed at the Longfellow School and 9 others being killed at the Logan School. After the tornado passed, large fires ignited and swept through the rubble, burning many of the trapped survivors alive. With the water mains destroyed, dynamite was used to try to stop the fires, but only caused more devastation. In all, 188 people died immediately in Murphysboro, including 20 who were not able to be identified. The number of injured was an estimate of just 623. However, this number could have been much, much higher. Of the injured, 46 died later, which brings the storm's death toll at Murphysboro to a heart-wrenching 234 fatalities. The tornado then struck the small farming village of DeSoto, which, on a scale paralleling Gorham, was virtually obliterated. In immediate storm aftermath, 56 people were killed in DeSoto and 105 more were injured, 5 of whom died later. Many homes in the town were swept away, again at F5 intensity. 33 of the deaths were students that were killed in the partial collapse of the DeSoto school, the worst tornadic death toll at a single school building in U.S. history. After laying waste to the small town of DeSoto, the tornado continued to the northeast, passing near countless towns and claiming several more lives before hitting the town of West Frankfort, Illinois. It struck the northwest side of town, where in a manner similar to what was seen at Murphysboro, Illinois, a number of densely populated neighborhoods, businesses, and mining operations fell victim to the tornado's wrath. The immediate storm killed 81 people at West Frankfort, while injuring a further 410, 21 of which died later, bringing the death toll in West Frankfort to 102. Several small mining villages in the area were obliterated, resulting in more fatalities. At Caldwell, a mining village northeast of West Frankfort, 24 people died, later to be joined by 2 more of the injured. The heaviest loss to befall a single family member was exacted on that of Caldwell storekeeper Isaac Ike Carnes, which lost 11 family members. Further to the northeast, the tornado completely destroyed the small village of Parrish, Illinois, killing 28 and injuring 60 more, 5 of whom died later, bringing the death toll to 33. The destruction seen in Parrish, Illinois was so complete that many of the residents sought to never rebuild. The storm continued to devastate more rural areas in the eastern side of the county, claiming another 6 lives. In all, 192 people died in Franklin County, 159 in the immediate impact, and another 33 among the injured in the following weeks. The tornado continued to devastate additional rural areas across Hamilton and White counties, Illinois. Between the 2 counties, 45 people were killed and 140 more were injured, 20 of which died later. As the tornado charged across Hamilton County south of Murphysboro, it reached its greatest width at 1.5 miles wide. Dozens of farms, homes, schools, and churches were swept away at F5 intensity. In White County, the tornado passed just 2 miles north of Harmony, missing the towns of Enfield and Caldwell by just a few hundred yards, killing another 18 and injuring 11. Another 18 people were killed, and 11 of those later died as a result of their injury. Crossing the Wabash River just north of New Harmony, Illinois, the tornado entered Indiana. Grazing the northernmost edge of Posey County, the tornado struck and completely demolished the small village of Griffin, Indiana, where not a single structure was left untouched by the storm, and many were completely swept away yet again at F5 intensity. 41 people were killed at Griffin and the surrounding areas. Another 202 were injured, with 5 dying later, bringing the death toll at Griffin to 46 fatalities. After leaving the town of Griffin, the tornado made a slight turn to the northeast as it crossed into Gibson County, devastating rural areas and clipping the northwest corner of Owensville, killing 9. The tornado then roared into the large factory town of Princeton, destroying much of the southern side and killing 38 and injuring 152, 6 of whom died later. Large sections of the neighborhoods in Princeton were badly destroyed or actually leveled to the ground. A Heinz factory was badly damaged as well. The tornado traveled more than 10 miles to the northeast, crossing to Pike County, before finally lifting at about 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time near Oatville, Indiana. In Indiana, at least 95 and or possibly more perished. In all, the tri-state tornado lasted for 3 hours and 45 minutes, having tracked a total path length of 219 miles. This, however, is most likely not accurate, as the whole tri-state tornado was most likely a tornado family rather than a single long-track tornado. The highest winds within the funnel most likely exceeded 300 miles per hour, making this an unofficial F5. 695 people were killed and at least 2,027 were injured. Monetary losses were appalling, as they reached a total of $16.5 million at the time, which roughly equates to $2.9 million in 2024 US dollars, which would make it the third costliest in US history.